Hello and welcome to the second edition of 2021's Geeks Assembled, which means now Lee is going to have to make sure that he uploads Taxi Driver first. Today we're going to be reviewing the 2000 movie Memento, directed by the Christopher of the Nolan. Arguably the greatest director to ever live. His mother's uterus is in the Bible. For such a creation. So we'll go over for opening thoughts to Tim. Let's go to Tim first. What's your opening thoughts?
I first saw this movie when it came out on DVD, which I guess was 2001, and I was impressed. I thought because Nolan wasn't a household name back then. He'd done one or two other things, but uh, my first thought was, though, after watching the film, was that this was just a clever way of telling a story backwards. And if they hadn't have done that, the plot would have been kind of mundane. Because I mean, what is the story really? If you see it in order, it's not really that big of a thing. But by doing it this way, though, you see that it's kind of clever. I mean, it's very clever. There's a lot of little action set pieces, but they're all being told out of order. You get to the end, and then there's a situation where the story takes on a bit of ambiguity because you don't know if half of what the story is true or not. Like, I mean, the main character who has a short-term memory problem may have been an unreliable narrator as well. So, I mean, you get to the end and you're not sure if some of what he's been talking about was real or not. He's been talking about this character. They show you these scenes in black and white who accidentally kills his wife because he has the same problem. But that may, in fact, be our lead character. So it does kind of leave you scratching your head when you get to the end of it. And it's it's very well directed movie, and it does keep your attention. So I'd say it's a very good movie. But it's kind of a gimmick, isn't it? The whole thing of seeing a story told out of order and out of sequence. So I don't know. It's an enjoyable watch. I've watched it like every few years or so, and I'm always left thinking, okay, what happens here and what happens and who did what? But I mean, that's part of the fun, I guess.
Thank you, Tim. Lee, what's your opening thoughts?
What was that?
Thoughts opening what Lee?
Right. What we're talking about?
Very funny.
What are we reviewing?
Shut up and you read your tattoo.
Yeah, well, a pretty good movie. What movie we're talking about? Yeah, Memento. Yeah, same as Tim. I never saw this when it was in the theaters. I just thought, oh, that looks interesting. I'll buy that. And I bought it 2001. Yeah, as Tim says, it's a gimmick. First time watching it, you don't know what the hell is going on. And then it's a second time viewing it, you think, oh, right, it's told in different order. And then you sort of start putting things together, of course. And as Tim says, you don't know whether Guy Pearce's character is a reliable storyteller. But you do learn all the way through the movie, everybody he knows is using him. From the woman Natalie, Carrie-Anne Moss, is it? Carrie-Anne Moss, yeah. To his buddy, turns out to be a cop. He's using him there as well, of course. But he wouldn't know that because he forgets all the time. It's a clever gimmick. And the way the story is told, it's so brilliantly done. I know Christopher Nolan, in some people's eyes, is the new Messiah. In the right, Connor?
Yeah. Yeah.
And some people's, in the real world, thinks he's sometimes a bit overhyped. Some of his movies do get a bit overhyped. But this
hold
one,
on. Let me cut you up because that's not his fault though. A lot of
no,
things get
no.
overhyped.
What I was leading to is, and he believes that hype. Sometimes you'll agree with me, Connor, won't you?
I think he's got to the point in his career now where he might be getting a bit too clever for his own good.
Yeah, I think we mentioned this in another cast a few months back when on film that I think I said we're on the verge of him disappearing up his own ring piece.
Yeah, and I'm sure that there is a movie coming up that I can confirm we will be reviewing where it does kind of happen.
Yeah, you can only go so far believing the hype about yourself and putting movies out there, and you think, whoa.
I still think that's an assumption because we don't know what he believes about himself or what, you know what I'm saying? I don't
know. Yeah, it's an assumption, but opinions as well. But this, in my opinion, is one of his better movies.
Early days,
before sort of big Hollywood money arrived, shall we say. I love this. It's only a small cast. And it's, as you say, it's sort of a small, insignificant story, really, about a guy with the memory loss and the few people around him what are sort of using him for their own good. Told out of order. And then you find out who are the good guys and the bad guys, or do you? It's ambiguous again. That's the word of the month, guys. You've got to use that in every sentence for every day of the week. But yeah, enjoyable rewatch on this, and brilliant performances. And Guy Pearce really did surprise me in this because I always remember him from the TV days of Neighbours, when he was in Neighbours with Jason Donovan and Kylie Minogue. But there you go. Over to you, Connor.
Thank you, Lee. Susan, what's your opening thoughts?
Well, I'm not as diehard a Christopher Nolan fan. I do like his Batman movies, and I still haven't seen Tenet, but I know I'm letting the side down, Connor. But he's in this one. He's hit upon some structure that I'd never seen before, and this is my first time seeing Memento, and it was intriguing. I mean, like the way the beats that he chooses to sort of go back and move the story forward and include more information. It's those beats are really sort of rhythmic and beautiful, and that was fun. And the kind of there are two things that film requires: persistence of vision and persistence of memory. And in order to tell a movie, you have to have both. You have to have a persistence of vision and persistence of memory. And this fellow has no persistence of memory. So the movie itself is taking a look at making movies and taking a look at its own structure because of the sort of axiom of motion picture making, which is called persistence of memory. And it's a really great. It's got a lot of like the back and forth dialectic is there. Like at one time, you think that Teddy is a prince, and then you think he's a scoundrel, and every time he flips the picture over, he is telling himself some information, but as Tim said, that may be unreliable narration. Like what's on the pictures and what's on his tattooed on his body, maybe stuff that's just in the flow of his daily life, and he just feels like it's all part of some grand mystery, and the mystery is there. It is a mystery. It's who killed his wife and who killed their his own ability to remember. And And is he actually training himself like he said, like he thinks he is? Because he doesn't really actually he doesn't get to any sort of beautiful lucid place at any at the beginning of the movie, which is the yeah. He's not in a real lucid place, so the whole premise that he's training himself using mnemonics and using uh, the graphs on the graph of the images on the wall and on his body and stuff like that. Those are also uh, called into question. Anyway, yeah, a lot of stuff going on in this one, and I really like it, and but first time through, and so a lot of the real character development and stuff I will not be able to talk about at all because I have got to see it again because I don't know what the hell I just saw. So anyway, back over to you, Connor.
Thank you, Susan. Yeah, Memento is probably one of my favourite Christopher Nolan films, along with Dunkirk. The structure, it is a fairly basic kind of story about a guy that is wanting to find his wife's killer and take revenge. But it's not that simple. The end is the beginning in this case, and the structure is that the black and white scenes are objective and the color scenes are subjective. So I mean, I'm gonna absolutely ham up this kind of description of the structure, but as the objective scenes move along, which is the black and white scenes, they become more subjective, and as the subjective scenes move along, which is the color ones, they become more objective. It's really weird. There's a great video on YouTube of Nolan himself, aged like 22, explaining the structure of this film. Yeah, it's really the structure, I think, that makes the film special. It's not so much the story. Guy Pearce is fantastic in it. It's a shame that they haven't worked together since. I think that it would have been good to see another film with these two, Christopher Nolan and Guy Pearce. And then you've got a Matrix reunion of sorts. It was a reunion, wasn't it? Was Matrix before this one?
Yes, it was.
Between Carrie-Anne Moss and Joe, I can't remember his last name, Pantaleone, I think his last name is. They were both in the Matrix together. So it's a bit of a reunion for them as well. Yeah, it's a fantastic film. You've got in the objective scenes Leonard, who suffers from what's the name of the I know the name. It's something amnesia. Anterograde amnesia. He's telling the story of Sammy Jankis and his wife, and because his wife didn't believe that Sammy had this form of amnesia, she tries to call his bluff, and at the end it ends with the wife dying because she gets Sammy to inject her twice with insulin because she's a diabetic. Then you find out that the story of how Leonard's wife died isn't all it's made out to be. She survives the initial attack that Leonard thinks killed his wife, but she actually survived it. And after that, she didn't believe that Leonard, due to the attack that him and his wife suffered, had this condition. So she tried to call his bluff as well, and it ended up in the exact same circumstances with the double insulin shot. With
No, but isn't that all subjective? I mean, that's not 100%. Isn't that the bit part of the bits that's unreliable? I mean, you're supposed to determine whether or not that's true, I think.
Yeah,
Don't believe his lies.
yeah, there is a certain aspect of unreliable narrator about it. But
My question to you, let me ask you this real quick though, maybe because it might be something I keep missing, but when he does that first murder at the end of the film, why does he get rid of the information so he immediately forgets it? Remember, he burns those photographs and of the person he kills, the person whose suit he steals and car he steals.
I'm not actually sure. I don't think that's. I've missed that as well. I'm not sure.
That's the very end of the film. He does these things, and that's
Yeah.
basically, it ends kind of abruptly because that's where it should have started. But I mean, I'm just curious as to if anybody knows why that he did that. Why? Because he knows he's got this problem, and since he forgets that, it puts him even more behind as to what he's trying to figure out, I would think.
I think it's because it gives him a purpose. He wants to keep living this life, finding his wife's killer, because it gives him a purpose. So he's almost living. I think the end kind of, he has a monologue at the end, and it kind of alludes to the fact that, you know, he's living a lie, but he has no other options really. So he just chooses to live the lie, even though he has got this condition. So I think by burning them photos, he's kind of condemning himself to constantly wanting to find John G. So I think that is the reason why he burnt them, because as you said, the end is so abrupt because it's actually the beginning. So the black and white sequences are moving forward in time chronologically. The color ones are moving backwards. So it's kind of and it ends on both of them merging. It's a very, very complex. I mean, I'm getting a headache just trying to think about how to explain it, really. Yeah, but I think Nolan did kind of excel himself with structure here. He's very good at manipulating structure, and he did take a very basic sort of story idea and make it interesting. This is a film that you can watch multiple times, and it just hooks you because you're always trying to understand it. It's kind of almost inexplicable, even after so many watches. It's such a headache to try and piece everything together. But it is such a basic story. I think that the acting is great. I like Carrie-Anne Moss in it. She's great, kind of deceiving Leonard. In fact, it seems like everyone around him is deceiving him. Also, Mark Boone Jr. makes a very short cameo as the hotel owner. He'd later return in the Batman films, Batman Begins, as Flash, not the superhero Flash, as one of Gordon's colleagues, corrupt colleagues. Mark Boone Jr. is a great actor. Yeah, I think it's just, for a first film, this is ambitious, and it was based on a short story by his brother, with the same concepts that they devised on a road trip to Los Angeles. I think it went from Chicago to Los Angeles, and they came up with the story, and then Jonathan went off to write the short story while Chris went off to make the film, and the film came out before the short story. So so yeah, yeah, great movie overall. Can't praise it enough. Absolutely love it. Christopher Nolan is the next Messiah. Actually, he's probably not. I think I'm fearing that he's probably got to the point in his career now where he might see a little bit of a decline. But who knows? He might come back and shock us.
I would say that probably other people feel like his decline was some of those Batman films. Not too many people like the third one, and most people just ignore the first one. So, I mean, it's all about the Joker.
Yeah.
As far as those, even though they're all very well made films, and I haven't seen all of his films, but I think that if I look at reviews and things, some it's kind of hit and miss. So I mean, I enjoyed Tenet very much. It's pretty much again another timey-wimey kind of exercise, but I think it you know, which he tends to do. Like you know, even Dunkirk wasn't straightforward. It's told in 3 different time zones that overlap.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think I mean in Interstellar initially was well received, but it was lukewarm. It's not the fanfare that
yeah, I've never seen that one.
That Dunkirk got. Dunkirk was very well received, and I think it is actually probably his best film, along with this.
Well, it's a true life historical event as well, also. So
yeah, I think Dunkirk is a perfect way of how to do tension. I'm looking forward to reviewing that actually and going more into detail with that. But yeah, I think Memento to start off a career is pretty bold, and it did get him a really good career going forward. I mean, next he did Insomnia, and then he started straight away with Batman. That was his first big studio film. So, and then he became a household name. So Memento did start off quite a lot of good things for Nolan, and it is an incredibly challenging film to understand, and I think that's the beauty of it, really. So next we'll move on to favorite moments. Lee, what's your favorite moments?
Well, Guy Pearce's story through the movie aside, the Carrie-Anne Moss character, Natalie, you know, that sad story is, you know, starts off well. You know, oh, you know, she's trying to help him, but she's not. She's using him, but also, you know, the copper is as well, because allegedly in the final scene, you know, of the movie, they got the 2 rapists a year or so ago, but he's been using Guy Pearce to get these other guys and making a bit of money, I think, because there was cash in the boot. So the cop's been making money that way through Guy Pearce's character. He's been bumping gangsters off for the cop.
Yeah. who was Natalie's husband? Who's
Natalie's husband, but Natalie was also using Guy to get. It's ever circles are just going round and round. But that the scene where they have an argument, Natalie and Leonard,
yeah,
in her house, and he hits her and all like that, and she storms out, sits in the car. He can't find the pens because she knew what she was doing, because she hid the pens in a bag. And then all of a sudden, a few minutes later, she comes in and he can't remember what's happened. And then she uses him to go and find another guy. Can't remember the name now, but it's all about using him. The cop's using him. She's using him. The scene in the bar, which the spitting in the drink, and he's there watching him spit in the drink, and then she turns around and gives him the drink, and he's drinking it. She's a nasty character.
She's very nasty.
You know, she's a very nasty character, and so the copper's a nasty character as well. But he's writing these things down, but he's only believing what he's seen in these characters because he's not getting the full story. So then photos that he's running his life by are totally wrong as well. It's so well done for a first movie. As you say, he got his foot in the door at Hollywood, didn't he, with this one? It's so well done, so well structured, and it really does. I know what Susan meant that she's got to go back and watch it again. You do. First watch is enjoyable. You think, wow, that's a brilliant movie, but then you start to think, was that so and so? Did that happen? You've got to watch it a second time to sort of structure it more. And maybe if you want to go back and watch it a third time, you'll see something else. But because every time you see it, you do see a little bit more. So, but yeah, they're just a few of my favorites. I mean, as I say, it's only a small cast, really. As I say, you Carrie-Anne Moss and that Joe, whatever his name is. I was going to say Pasquale then. It's not Pasquale, is it?
Well, he went on to have a part in The Sopranos a couple of years after this.
Joe Pantoliano or something like that.
Ended up with his head in a bag.
Yeah, his characters. You know, it's his friend. You know me, but he plays on his sickness. You know, yeah, you've told me this so many times, but it's so good. You know what we're talking about. You know, he sort of eggs him on and plays on it as well. So it's nasty characters, really. But it's a damn good movie. So over to you, Connor.
Thank you, Lee. Susan, what's your favourite moment?
I guess my favorite moment in this whole thing is I feel really connected to the story of the Yankees. Like that, what you consider to be objective, I don't know if that's objective or not, but it is incredibly sad, incredibly sweet. And since the movie starts off so freaking brutal, you know, with killing the other guy, and then it, it starts off incredibly brutal, and then kind of tapers off from there. Like there's Teddy dies, and then after that you get the first story about his wife, and you see the tattoos and stuff, and so I mean, it's a nightmare. And so I tried not to, but I went there. Anyway, yeah, and then there's this story of this couple, and it's all about insurance. It's all about an insurance investigation, and he pretends to be he portends to be a detective of sorts, and so yeah, he's got this mystery that he's figuring out, and I guess one of the mysteries is the Yankees, and Stephen Tobolowsky is so he's always in comedies, he's always in lighthearted things. I mean, right now he's in the middle of playing like a 10-year sitcom called The Goldbergs, which is it's a true to life story about an actual family in the U.S. And he always played, and this is such a tragic role for him. Holy crap! It's so tragic. Anyway, yeah, it's incredible. So guess those are my favorite moments. Is the moments with the Sankeys and that terribly sad story. I mean, we barely get to know his wife and stuff, so there's not a lot of emotional connection except for just the justice thing, getting justice, revenge. But anyway, yeah, so those are my favorite moments in this. And the pacing and the timing and the beats and the way that's structured. Oh yeah, and one more thing. I was talking about persistence of memory, but there's also the persistence of vision, because you don't get long term uh, storytelling in the images, so you have to have persistence of vision in the with the all the Polaroids. The Polaroids and the other things are on a play on that persistence of vision as well as persistence of memory. So I having thought about it during this cast, that's what I've come to, is that it actually is addressing both of the key things that are necessary. Because without persistence of vision, you'll see 35 frames per second, but because our brains are able to create a moving picture out of something that is actually shot in 35 or 24 frames per second, excuse me, um, it it actually forms a moving image, and that, to me, that you know those are the two things that are needed. Anyway, uh, yeah, that's all I got. Thanks, Connor.
Thank you, Susan. Tim, what's your favourite moments?
It's kind of hard to pick them. I mean, it's an ongoing story. It's I don't know, like we pretty much already covered what happens and where it goes and what it means. But I'm just wondering if anybody's ever seen it from back to front. Allegedly, the DVD originally had uh, a presentation where you could watch it backwards and actually see it in the proper order. But I don't think that's on there, and it's not on the Blu-ray, so I don't know if anybody ever had. I'm pretty sure there's a fan edit out there somewhere that probably shows it. But I'm guessing it'd be a really unfun thing to watch and take all the magic out of it.
Is that the because on this DVD here it says special hidden feature, the
Maybe
beginning
so.
of the end. That could be
I
it.
think, yeah, it's that. That's the chronological
Oh,
play of
okay.
the film.
Oh, I'll have to look at that.
Anyway, I think that again, my first thoughts back in the day when I first saw it was that would just remove the magic of it, because really that was the whole point of the exercise, was that you're given bits of information and you take them in and try to figure out what's going on, and you get to the end, which is really the beginning. So yeah, it's an excellent piece of work. I mean, it's technically this is his second film, isn't it? Because he did another film, an independent British film, I
Yeah,
believe.
yeah, he did Following first,
Yeah,
and then he did. Yeah, it's technically his second film.
but this is his first studio film, I believe, and yeah, good stuff. I mean, I don't know. You guys sound a bit jaded when it comes to this guy. Talking lately that maybe he's getting too clever, but I don't really see it that way. I think that because I think he has had a couple of clunkers on the way. I'm not sure, uh, but yeah, this is an impressive film for so early in his career.
Thank
I
you,
look forward
Tim.
to more.
Thank you, Tim. Yeah, I kind of got to agree that it's difficult to pick favorite moments, because I think every moment is
Stop.
kind of it's a strange story to kind of piece together to make sense of it enough to pick a favorite moment. But I think the beginning, to start a film like that and then have the bullet kind of reverse back into the gun and stuff like that, and his head kind of come back together, for a first film or second film, however you want to look at it. For many people's first impression of Christopher Nolan at the time, that's a pretty bold image to go for. So I think the start, really, the very first scene is my favorite, and just how the film cleverly plays out is my favorite thing of the. It's just really clever.
Yeah,
And
because every time they replay a scene, you're seeing it in a different context. That's been, you know what I mean?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So when you're seeing all the color sequences, you're seeing it as if you've got the same um, conditioners as Leonard has, which is really clever as well. So it's putting you in Leonard's head rather than, which is why it's subjective, um, rather than kind of looking at it quite black and white, which is ironic because they use the two different colors, and looking at him from the outside and seeing him objectively, as he's telling the story of Sammy. Um, so them two elements put together is kind of an interesting way of mixing about with the structure of a film, I think, and that's just my favorite part in general. So I think I'd class that as a favorite moment. Yeah, everyone else is pretty much covered.
Um, I've got a question. Well, sort of a somewhat niggling. We know movies are made out of sync, shots and all like that. But I wonder how he sold the actors to do this. How he gave them the script.
He wrote it, and he said that this is the worst mistake he ever made in his career.
Mm.
He wrote it chronologically.
Right. So
And
they got the story from A to B.
Yeah, and then he took every scene on the typewriter or whatever, and he mixed them up.
He just snipped here, snipped there, jiggle it around.
And he said it would have been a hell of a lot like clearer and less of an issue if he'd just written it as we'd seen it on the screen.
Well, yeah, because as I say, they always shoot out of sync anyway, don't the movies and TV? So yeah, that's I was just wondering how they did that, how they sold it to the film company, to the actors to say, look, you want to do this?
Yeah,
if they'd have given him the script all over the place, it'd have been a big turn off for some people.
Yeah, the biggest pain in the backside, he said, it was writing it, was because he wrote it completely the wrong way, and he learned from that. He wrote everything subsequently that he's done, where he's messed with time, as we see it on the screen.
Well, also when it came out, it was also a very new and exciting idea for a film. You remember that sometimes you have years that go by, it was the same old superhero underwear and shit. Whereas, if somebody does something inventive and new, then it's going to catch people's attention like this movie did. I mean, even though basically he's just playing with the script, he's playing with the story structure and showing it to you out of order and hoping that you can pick up what's going on. That was new back then. You don't do, that was nothing that had been done before.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said at the top of the cast, it's become a bit of a gimmick now to show things non-linearly. But for me, it's still better than watching a Marvel film. I like films like that, even though it is a gimmick now. It would be interesting to see if they could ever come along and make another form of a structure to kind of go alongside linear, non-linear, because it's becoming a bit of tired, and not everyone executes it as well as Nolan has. And there's another film I'm trying to think of that we've reviewed recently that did the same thing. It was non-linear. Many filmmakers do it these days anyway, so it's kind of Tarantino, Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tarantino and Nolan, I think, are two of the best at executing non-linear storytelling. But yeah, like you said, it has become a bit of a gimmick.
But well, I mean, it was more of a gimmick in this one. I think Pulp Fiction was just deliberately trying to confuse. I think in a lot of ways. But I don't know. I mean, yeah, you're right. It has become kind of overdone these days. I guess a lot of TV shows like that, do that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
Well, it's kind of hard when you've had sort of a lot of a single kind of storytelling, and somebody comes up with something new. It's going to ride high for a really long time. Like the whole idea right now of multiverses. That is a real.
Just move on already. Put away the capes and the underwear, and let's do something new, okay?
Yeah.
Man, this is so tiresome. I agree with Scorsese. This is all they do now.
yeah, theme park film.
Shitty, stupid theme park movies with lots of explosions and people running around in capes. I mean, come on. That's like lowest common denominator cinema.
Cinema has lost something, and I'm wondering how this pandemic is going to impact how film.
They just make less movies.
Yeah, but they'll make less money.
How am I supposed to punch him from 6 feet away?
But I am wondering if there will be more tolerance for indie films and things that kind of like to experiment a bit more, or whether there'll be less.
Oh, we can hope.
Yeah. I hope that there's more of a tolerance, and I think with streaming now, there is more opportunity.
I think that you have more opportunity anyway because because of streaming, you are making more content in general anyway. So more indie stuff gets out there. It just doesn't grab the headlines like these crappy 3-hour extravaganza underwear stories are. I mean, there's enough indie stuff out there. You just have to look for it. It's usually in a cult type situation where just a few people are talking about something that's really, really hip that nobody else is watching.
I would like to point out, though, that our host has suggested 2 underwear stories to be added to the lists.
One of them, in my defense, is fucking hilarious, and it is directed by someone who is far from sort of a boring underwear superhero underwear wearing director. But he's not made a career doing that. So in my defense,
but it is a Marvel film, though, isn't it?
It is a Marvel film. but I mean, it's Taika Waititi. I mean, you can't say no to Taika Waititi.
No, he's a very good director.
He's a very good director, yeah, and he's not boring as well, like all of these, as we've been just talking about then, theme park films. And he's very indie as well. He actually is an indie director. So it's by definition, I think I'd call that an indie film. And it is an interesting take on Thor as well, so I wouldn't call it safe either. But we'll get to that review sometime soon. Yeah. I think that when films like Memento and all of these, even though it has become a gimmick, when they kind of die out, if they do, I'm hoping they don't. I'm hoping Apple TV and Netflix and Amazon Prime and stuff allow more kind of films like this to be made. And I'm just more interested at the moment in seeing how the current landscape with the coronavirus kind of affects what films are made, because there's going to be more focus now on money, I think, in the immediate future, because cinemas have got a long way to go to come back, I feel. And in fact, it's not at all certain that they will come back yet. Fingers crossed that they do. But yeah, so that's moving on from favourite moments. We'll go to final say and scores. Susan, what's your final say and score?
All right. Well, because it's first time through, and because I learned a little bit about filmmaking from watching it. I'll give it an 8.5, and yeah, it was definitely challenging and brutal. And I know that mostly the brutal honesty of these two, or the brutality of the two movies that we reviewed this week, is it's strong. It's strong medicine anyway. So yeah, an 8.5 out of 10 for me.
Thank you, Susan. Lee, what's your final saying score?
I've already gave you it, didn't I?
Oh, very funny. Look at your tattoo. Look at your photos. Your Polaroid.
Yeah.
What does that say?
I'm not getting that tattoo out. I'll tell you that for a fact. That's not going to be. That's going to not get any viewing. Yeah, it's a compelling movie. It makes you think. It makes you think. If it engrosses you, but it's a simple story. Gimmicky, yes. At the time, it was up there. Something new. So I'm giving this a 9. Or am I? What did I give it? What did I give it last time?
You gave it a 10 last time.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, no. I'll go 10 then.
Wow.
What? Hold on. What did I give it last time?
10.
Did I?
Yeah.
I might give it an 9. I might give it an 9 this time.
No, you gave it 12 last time, I think.
All right. Okay. What did I give it last time?
12.
I'm gonna go down. I think I'll give it a 10.
Okay.
Is this pick one?
Over to you, Connor.
Thank you, Lee. Tim, what's your?
I agree with what Lee just said about the, it's a simple story, but it's told in a new and interesting way at that time. And I've always liked it. And I wasn't aware at the time I was watching it that it was anybody to rave about. Like, I didn't know who Nolan was at that point. Nobody did. So, yeah, I'm going to give it a 9. I think it's an excellent film that holds up again after, what is it now, 20 years. And it's a very compelling movie. And it's got another ambiguous ending where you're just kind of like, okay, what really happened here? And you have to think about it and make up your own mind because nobody's going to tell you. So yeah, 9 for me.
Thank you, Tim. Susan, what's your final saying score?
What did I give it last time?
You get 8.5, I think.
Yeah.
Lee.
Well, I've got a Polaroid that says that to Connor that he should end the cast. That he's done a good job and he should end this fucking cast. I'm not
throw that F word around a lot.
This Polaroid though.
Have we done a cast?
Yeah.
I thought we were starting.
Lee, what's your final saying score?
Oh, it's final saying score. What we reviewed?
Memento.
I don't remember that. Is it any good?
I'll give it. We'll cut this fairly short now. I'll give it a 9 out of 10. It is a great film. Recommend you watch it out of order as it's intended first, and then if you want to watch it chronologically as the DVD does give you the option of doing to understand it better, yeah, do that as well. So yeah, that's my final saying score. Yeah, so that's it. That's our review of Memento. Join us next time. Give us a like, click the bell for notifications. Make sure you subscribe and message Lee. I think that's his name. Could be Lee. Is it Lee?
Who are we talking to?
Well, it ain't Teddy. I know that much.
Who said that?
Message Lee if you want to join in on the cast at any point. That'd be good. Yeah. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Hello.
Hello.